Tennessee. He told his co-pilot, and he turned. He said, see that lake down there? When I was a kid, I lived in the backwoods country of Tennessee. I lived in the hills, and there was a lake, and for probably 10 years, I went out to that lake and fished. Got up every morning and fished in that lake, and I'd look up and I'd see airplanes and say, man, one day I'm going to get out of these hills. One day I'm going to get out of this hick town. I want to be a pilot, and I'm going to see the world. For 10 years, I said, I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to see the world. I'm going to fly. There was pause. He said, one day I'm going to go back to that lake because that's where I want to be. I want to be back down there. Sometimes we think we want one thing, but it's not what we want. I grew up in small towns, and I tell you, the older you get, those small towns look more and more appealing, where the pace is slow, and the people. I went there, and I lived in a bank. I lived in a town called Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and I'd go to the bank, and Miss Seymour was in there. Miss Seymour, I need $20. Okay, I didn't write a check. She just gave me money. Now everything's online. It's just a different world in which we live. So life is filled with a lot of things, and we want to. It's amazing how life always seems to be better on the other side of the mountain. Isn't it interesting how the grass always seems to be greener on the other side? I wonder if you ever felt like Lucy, thinking, if only you can get over that mountain, life will be better. If only I had more money, life would be better. If only my health could improve, then life would be better. If only my marriage was stronger, I could be better. If only my spouse were still with me, life would be better. If only I could move to a new place, life would be better. You see, I think most of us are on a continual search for happiness. And the secret I want to tell you is learn to be content where you are right now with what you have. The answer is not found in something else, because when you get that, it'll be just something else that you need. If you have your Bible, turn to lesson number 3, Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Probably chapters 2 and 3 are my favorite chapters in all of Ecclesiastes. And I simply love this chapter in the Bible. And in chapter 1, we heard Solomon, the preacher, talk to us about life being meaningless or vanity, or chasing after the wind. And this was coming from the mouth of a man who had it all. He was the wealthiest man in all of the world at that known time. He probably was known as the wisest man in the world at that time. Yet he had more and did more. Yet he says, vanity, vanity, everything is vanity, a chasing after the wind. So I'm going to read chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 1 through 8, and then we'll look at them closely. I said in my heart, I like that. That means you're talking to yourself, okay? Or I thought to myself. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses. I planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and planted in them and all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. I bought male and female slaves. I had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself. Do you see all the my in there? I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines to the delight of men. So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me. I'm going to stop right there. I want you to see where Solomon went in his search for purpose and meaning in life. The first one is this. He says in verse 1, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. So number one, I wrote the word pleasure. Those numbers 1 through 8 are the verses right there. I'll test you with pleasure. The first place Solomon looks to find purpose is pleasure. My, how applicable that is to our culture today. We live in a culture, we live in a world that is consumed with this never-ending search for pleasure. We want to go to relax. We want to go and have fun. We want to go on a vacation. We want to go on a trip. It's just, we want to be with pleasure seems to be the goal for our lives right now. And so many people have learned this as well. The problem with pleasure is pleasure is temporary. Most things in life, you do it. That's what my wife says when I go play an expensive round of golf. I could have bought a dress that'll last me 10 years for the round. You pay for that one round of golf. I sure hope you enjoyed it. It rained, didn't it? You know, and so many things you pay a lot of money for, but it's here and it's gone. That cruise is wonderful, but then before you know it, it's over. It's over. And those are the good pleasures. Let me get to the dark side of it, the sinful flanks of that. People who do extramarital affairs or go on flings or cheat on their spouse or do drugs. What they think is going to bring them much pleasure brings them pain. You've seen me do the example I do of the fishing lure. I had that little fishing lure, and the fish is swimming in the oceans of life, minding his own business, and he sees that lure there. It's bright and shiny, and he thinks, ooh, that looks good, that looks tasty, and I want, and then he bites. And the moment he bites, the pleasure turns to pain. And that's the way it is a lot of times with a lot of our pursuits of pleasure. Once we want this, we want this, we want this. As soon as we get it, we say, uh-oh, what have I done? And you can't undo that which has been done. So many things. Once you bite, you realize the pleasure is not worth the pain. But nothing's wrong with pleasure. But when that's consuming your search, you're not going to find pleasure apart from God. When you start seeking pleasure apart from God, what Solomon calls it under the sun. When your pursuit of pleasure is for things under the sun, it will not satisfy. So the first place he looked was pleasure. Verse 2. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? So the first place he looked was pleasure. The second place he looked was laughter. You know, he says, some people live for laughter. Some of you love the sitcoms, the comedies, and because it just gets your mind off things. I just want to laugh the night away. But a lot of times that people, sometimes who are the funniest people, sometimes comedy is just a mask hiding a deeper pain. True story, in my high school, if you look at our yearbooks, they got, you got different awards. Mr. So-and-so high school, most likely to succeed. And I was voted friendliest of the class. There was a guy who was voted wittiest. He committed suicide a year later. And I'll never forget that, because since that time, I'm very sensitive when I read the papers. I remember Robin Williams, one of the funniest guys. And a lot of times you have no idea what their comedy is masking or covering up. And so a lot of, we just say this trying to, and people get that attention. I wrote in the back, the last page there, the story of a man who was deeply disturbed and troubled. He couldn't go to bed at night. He couldn't wake up in the morning. He was depressed as can be. And finally it got so bad that he went to see a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist sat with him for like 2 hours and had no help for him. And at the end of it, the session, he said, man, I feel sorry. I wish I could help you here. I've got tickets to the theater night. There's an Italian clown in town. Why don't you go and just laugh your troubles away? Take my tickets and you can go. And the man looked at him and said, but you don't understand, doctor. I am that Italian clown. And so what we don't understand sometimes is the laughter goes, but then when the laughter ends, what then? You need something more to get you through. So Solomon tried pleasure, and it didn't work. He tried laughter, and it didn't work. Look at verse number 3. I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how laid hold to folly, till I might see what was good for children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. Number 3, I put wine. It says wine, and I put wisdom. But wine, we've already talked about wisdom. He tried wine. He couldn't find happiness in pleasure. He couldn't find purpose in laughter. So I call it, he went to the arena of alcohol. I'll just drink my troubles away. How many of you know people do that? They just drink, and people go and just, how people seem to be funny. Those jokes seem to be funnier the more they've had to drink. Stories seem to get better after they've had a few drinks, and they'll just drink thinking, that'll do it. But you see the word temporary again? You wake up the next day. Oh my, what did I do? Oh my, what did I do? And so I just, I love that, people say, all right, where did I go last night? What did I do? I was listening to one of my, growing up, I grew up, a singer called Jimmy Buffett lived in the town where I lived in, and he used to sing this song called Margaritaville. It says, all I knew, I woke up with a brand new tattoo. Don't know where it came from, but I did. It must have been good, And so what you think is going to be good, think it'll be you drink, and then the next day he says, it's over. It's over. How many times have you done something like that and say, why did I do that? Every time I go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, the next day I say, why did I do that? Why did I do that? It looks so good. Oh, my trip back home to Mississippi, I love the seafood, but up in central Mississippi, they got the vegetables, and they got all-you-can-eat buffets, and they've got fried chicken fried steak, meatloaf, fried catfish, the vegetables. And the thing about the vegetables, my wife said, I said, honey, there's 12 types of vegetables here. But they all taste the same. They're all fried, and just eat. Oh, my. It's the temporary pleasures. They look so good, but then you have the hangover, and then even the wine didn't work. Drinking didn't work for a while. So that's number 4. How about verse 4? I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I'm going to stop there. He did works. I put works, vineyards, and houses. Works, vineyards, and houses. He just accomplished a lot. His resume was good. He built houses. And some of you just love to see, I built that. I built that with my own hands. I did that. And a sense of accomplishment of doing that. We remodeled our house. We've been in our house 5 years, and we totally remodeled the whole thing. It took a long time. But you get a source of pride about, my wife said, everything's like I like it. I've got the closets like I like them. I got this like I like them. And there's a source of pride that we did. We did that. Houses and then vineyards. He planted his own vineyards. That's his vineyard. So but after a while, the vineyard's going to die. It's just not going to last. How about verse 5? Verse 5 says, I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. Gardens and parks, and I put fruit and pools. No, that's 6. Well, gardens and parks. He had a beautiful garden. How many of you have a garden? And that's pretty good in the desert. Most people they love their garden. And I'd go in the church that I've had people, Pastor, come over and see my garden. And I'd sit there and I'd leave with tomatoes or leave with this or leave with that. And just proud because of their gardens. But the gardens are just for a season. They work for a while. I remember as a kid, my neighbor, they had a garden, and they said I could plant something in there, and I planted a watermelon. And I went there, and as a kid, it started growing, and you're supposed to wait. I couldn't wait. I plucked that baby when it was about this big, and then it was gone. I was sad. So even your gardens don't turn out the way you want. How about verse 6? Verse 6, he says, I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. He had his own bathing pools or swimming pools, and he got just this ample water supply, thinking that's what he would do. But the pools didn't satisfy. Verse 7 says this, I bought male and female slaves and had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great flocks in there. And so, he had servants waiting on him hand and foot. He must have had many because they even had children, and those children belonged to him as well. He owned people, and he had servants and waiters and attendees taking on him right there, just attending to his every need. People from the outside would look, wow, he's got it all. He's got it all. What can you do with that? I'm a college football fan, and if you know that, I'm from Mississippi, so the coach at Ole Miss, anybody know his name? His name's Lane Kiffin, okay? And they're like number 5 in the nation right now. But there's 2 openings right now, the coach, the job at LSU and the job at Florida. And I like LSU too. And they both have a whole lot more money than does Ole Miss. And so word is out that he may quit even before they get to the end of the season and go to this playoffs, and that would be devastating to the team to do that. But the rumor is he's got a contract waiting on him for I think it's like 5 years or 7 years, $97 million. And my wife just says, who in the world needs $97 million to coach a football team? And yet, but it's that lure. You follow me? That lure, And so, is there a difference between 67 and 97? How much you can spend or something like that? But it's just that lure of something better, of something more, right there. How about verse 8? It says, I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. So if you put, he's got verse 8, silver and gold, and he had a harem. He had a harem. I forget in my study one time, I added up somewhere, I think it's in Kings, he may have had 600, 700 wives, and concubines over that. In those days, he would marry women from every kingdom just to share in that treasure, in that. So he did all of that, but what more could you want in life right there? The teacher wants to assure us that he's not lost his mind. You might think he has, and gone mad. Both in verses 3 and 9, he addresses his stability. Read these verses. Let me read verse 3. I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with mine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom. He's saying that, I know it sounds crazy, folks, but I'm still wise. I still got my mind. And then in verse 9, he says, so I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. He said, folks, I'm not crazy. I'm just searching. I haven't gone mad. I just don't have the answers for this right here. No, Solomon wasn't crazy. He just couldn't find anything under the sun that brought lasting happiness. Now, the argument might be made that there's nothing wrong with pursuing the things listed above. Explain where the danger lies in seeking things that will bring happiness under the sun. And I wrote down there, the danger is when we leave God out of the equation. When we leave God out of the occasion, or when we live our lives without God. When we live our lives without God. I'll probably talked to 4 people just this morning about this building campaign. And once again, folks, I've never been in a building campaign before. I don't know exactly how to go about it. But I'm loving the testimonies I'm getting because I've talked to 4 different people today. And they said, I was planning to do this. But then in my prayers, God wants me to do this. And I think that's interesting because even Christians, I'm preaching to myself. I say, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And then I'm leaning, maybe that's the wrong question. God, what can you do through me? Because when I say, what can I do, I'm thinking I'm leaving God out of the equation. You feel me? You hear me? I'm leaving God out of the equation. And it's common sense to do that. But if I say, God, what would you have me do? I'll put it up here. Okay, God, you're going to have to show up for this. It's the same way in prayers. A lot of times, I'm not a, hear me, I'll get in trouble for this. I'm not the sensationalist testimony person. You know, every time we have a conference, you know, so I don't have a testimony that I was on drugs or I was in jail. Or I like the testimony of the normal person. Yeah, I believe God works in life. So I'm not big into sensationalism like that. But I do believe this. Your prayers, your daily prayers, ought to include something that when that prayer is answered can only be explained by God. Does that make sense? Yeah, because we pray so many bless them and be with them prayers. God, just bless my children, be with them, bless them and be with them. But do we really know that they're answered? I mean, so, Billy Bob's going into an interview next week. I pray in Jesus' name that your will be done in that interview if it's your will to get that job. Or I pray that you will bring healing to them. Or I pray you will help them out of that financial situation. I pray they will find a friend whom they can. Something that's specific enough that you know God is at work. And I'll tell you, this is just coming from me. The benefit of this building campaign is I've already heard from you numerous prayers of how God has worked in your life and how God has done something to make you do something that you ordinarily wouldn't do. And so I've never done this before, but I feel compelled to do it. So that's what I want you to pray about. Pray about something that on your prayer list. Don't pray something that can be explained by your human strength or wisdom. Pray for something that when it's answered, God, that was beyond me. Thank you, Jesus. So conclude that in your prayers. All right, turn to the next page. Read aloud verses 10 and 11. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity, and a striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. You know, what I noticed about Solomon is nothing was off limits. Nothing, even Adam and Eve went in the garden. Everything is yours except don't touch the tree in the middle of the garden. You can do everywhere you want. Just stop here. The football field, you got 100 yards, but you can't go out of bounds. You know, and we all have boundaries, and I think we need boundaries. I need boundaries to say, don't go there, don't touch this, don't do that. Solomon had no boundaries. Why? Because he was the king of the land. He could do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, with whomever he wanted. He said, I denied myself no pleasure. Everything I wanted to do was limits. But he said, and you know what I found out? Meaningless. Meaningless. A chasing after the wind. Since Solomon was still in possession of his faculties, he decided to put his mind to work. If all the sensual delights and practical projects wouldn't produce lasting happiness, maybe a change in direction would. Let me read verse 12. So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done. He decided to run in another direction. The new direction led him to 3 comparisons. Read the following verses and see if you can identify these comparisons. Number 1, verses 13 through 17, the comparison. Then I saw there's more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there's more gain in light than in darkness. The wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I perceived that the same event happens to all. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. For the wise as of the fool, there is no enduring remembrance, seeing in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, and all is vanity, a chasing after the wind. So I wrote there, he compared wisdom with folly. Wisdom with folly. Solomon's goal was to determine whether he should adopt a lifestyle marked by wisdom or a lifestyle marked by folly. Should he become a serious thinker or a clown? It seems like in every group, you got the serious people, and then you got the not serious people. And you went there, and so it's hard. And the serious people say, "Hey, you need to get serious," and the funny part, "Hey, you need to lighten up." Being a football fan, I remember I like, some people don't like him, but I like Deion Sanders. I like Deion Sanders when he went to coach there. But he went from the Atlanta Falcons to another town. Then when he went to San Francisco and to Dallas, he won championships at San Francisco. But when he went to San Francisco, he played defense, and their wide receiver, who is my favorite of all time, his name is Jerry Rice. He's from Mississippi. Jerry Rice was about as serious as they come. You don't play around. You don't laugh. It's all work. And he and Deion didn't get along. Deion said, "You need to lighten up, man. We're not up here to have fun." He had the music loud and dancing around, and Jerry Rice did. So you got both. You got both in life. And there's pros and cons to both, but I'll never forget that. You take the serious route? Solomon said, do I need to become a deep, deep thinker, or do I just need to laugh and be happy? So he began a life of seeking pleasure that caught his eye, but it did not satisfy. So the first comparison is wisdom with folly. Now let me read verses 18 through 21. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or fool? Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun. Because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity, a great evil. What has man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils under the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow. His work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. Okay? So I went too far, didn't I? So let me go back to 21. First, in verses 18 through 21, he compared the immediate with the ultimate, or the immediate with the future. The here and now. Some people just plan for the future. Some people live for today. And that's one of these things. There's balance between that. My wife is the saver. I'm the spender. My wife is one who thinks about the future. I think about today. She wants to do that. I tell people, because I'm not retirement age yet. For the last 20 years, I said, honey, we're going to do well in retirement. We're going to go broke getting there, because we don't spend any money now. But she's very frugal and very stewardship with doing those things, looking ahead and planning ahead. And some people say, you got it now, spend it now. And so it's a different philosophy. So he compared the immediate with the future. And then this is Solomon. Work, think, plan, strategize, travel, promote, project, worry, increase your hours, more responsibility, invest more, give more, work more. Solomon was frustrated in the fact that he could work and work and work and build an empire of wealth, but he can't take a dime with him when he leaves. Friends, you build your company up. How many times have I seen it over the years? Billy Bob builds a great company, and then Billy Bob Jr. ruins the great company. He builds his company up, and I want to leave this for my kids. Sometimes That's the worst thing you can do. I'm not telling you how to do your business, but leaving your kids with all of that money or leaving your kids with all that, but friends, you're just setting them up to failure, and then you're going to turn this. And somebody said, so I said, we're going to spend all this money to build this, to renovate this, and come back in 40 years, it's going to be turned into pickleball courts. You just never know what's going to happen to it. No, that's not going to happen. But you don't know, do you? You just don't know what's going to happen to it. And I pray there's churches all around here that are empty right now. They're empty right now. In fact, you may not knew this, but 2 years ago, we talked to a church that has a worship center that seats 1,000 people. And that they wanted to talk to us about flip-flopping, trading churches right here. And we backed out of that because there's so much emotional stuff with churches and things like that. And they thought more highly of the value of theirs than we did. But when you see these churches that are empty, I'm planning a trip. Hopefully, I'm thinking about going next summer to England on an English Reformation tour. I've been looking at this Spurgeon's Tabernacle, places like that. And they say in Europe, some of the greatest churches are nothing but museums now. They're just empty, hollow shells. You can't help but to wonder if that's going to happen in America today. So Solomon says, what's the use of building all this when people behind me are just going to laugh at it? They have no idea in England that when Charles Spurgeon or John Wesley were preaching in those things, how important that was and influential that was. Because we're rewriting history even as we go. So people don't even remember that. So the third thing, 22 and 23, he compared daily work with evening relief. Daily work with evening relief. He said, do you ever feel like this? You work hard all day, tired, sore, problems, complaints. You finally get home to get some rest and relaxation, and you can't get your mind off of work. And so I just think about these success-driven people who are high-powered executives, and they run their own company. Do they leave their work at the office and relax in quiet serenity at home? No way. But there's a reason Valium's the number one drug in America. We become so consumed with success and careers, we can't get away from it. We need perspective. I wish I could do better at that because I'm always thinking. And Lisa, this season, Lisa likes to watch these. Our new favorite channel, we've gone away from Hallmark. It's called Great Americans or something like that channel because it's very Christian-oriented. But we're watching all these Christmas shows. And last night, she's sitting there. She says, "How can you do that, Rob? Do what? We're watching a show. You've got dessert in one hand. You got your laptop in your lap. You got a Bible and 2 commentaries on each side." I said, "I'm very good at multitasking." And she said, "We're not too good. I've spoken to you 3 times. You didn't respond, and so, but I've always got something going. I haven't learned to separate. Some people have a job where when they clock out, boom, they're gone. They're gone. I've never had that. I think about it 24/7 when I go. Look at verses 24 and 25. There's nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat and who can have enjoyment? Now, right here is the rare flash of insight Solomon gives us here. He seems to see the value in the simple things of life. In verse 25, where does he say true satisfaction comes from? The hand of God. This comes from the hand of God. And what does he say? What does he say God gives to the man who pleases him? In verse 26, he says, "For the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy." Wisdom, knowledge, and joy. Those are 3 things that come from God when we seek him. And then it says, and to the man who does not please God, what is his task? Then it says this, But God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity, a striving after the wind. So God is the source of contentment. God is the source of satisfaction. God is the source of purpose and meaning in life. And many people were seeking all of these things in this world apart from God. And what we discover is it doesn't last. And that's why we need to wake up every morning with a purpose, with a reason. I want to share in closing, we're going to finish early. My chapters, I'm getting used to them, are shorter than my previous studies. I'm trying to figure out how much I need to add. But let me give some summary thoughts. I got 4 things I want to share with you when we close. Solomon did more and accomplished more than any king before him. You had King Saul was the first king. Then King David was probably the greatest king. And then Solomon. And after Solomon, the kingdom was divided. And there was never a king like him after that. But Solomon was the building king. Remember, David couldn't build the temple. Solomon built the temple. And so if I were to say 1 to 4 things, point number 1 is this. Solomon did it all. He did it all. I mean, he had more money. He had more power. He had more wisdom. He had more success. He had more wives. He had more herds. He had more flocks. He had more silver. He had more gold. He tried pleasure. He tried laughter. He went here. He went there. I mean, his bucket list was complete. There's nothing he did not do. Been there, done that. In fact, that's a title of one book about Ecclesiastes. Been there, done that, now what? Solomon did it all. There's just, man, if I can just go to the Super Bowl, if I can just go to New York City, if I can just go to here, no, I want New York City. If I want to go here, then life will be good. And Solomon, he did it all. So that's number 1. Number 2, Solomon did it all for himself. He did it all for himself. He didn't think of others. 34 times in this section, you see the words, I, me, or mine. 34 times. I did it for me. I did this for me, myself, myself, myself. Friends, when you live your life for yourself, it's going to be empty and meaningless. When you live your life for self, it simply will not last. He did it all. He did it all for himself. And that's why I'm getting testimonies about investing in this building campaign, is that we're going to do something that for other people. For other people. That one day we can tell grandchildren, when you come, hey, I was a part of that. I was a part of that. Or my grandparents did that. I went back to my 45th high school reunion and last a year ago. It was a year ago. And I'll never forget, my older sister was it was deep South. They had fraternities and sororities in high school. And there was this one uppity fraternity the guys went in. There's one uppity sorority that the popular girls got in. Well, my sister didn't get invited to that sorority, okay, in the 9th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So I'll never forget, my mom got my sister and 3 or 4 of her friends and started their own sorority, okay? My mom founded it, and they did everything that the other group didn't. Every year they went on a cruise, or they went to California. I was 5 years younger, so I got to go with all these high school girls and this. So I went on a cruise to the Bahamas. I went on a bus trip to California, and within 4 years, it was the club because it was the travel group. You got to travel everywhere. And so here I was thinking about this, and I know why she did it, because she felt bad for my sister who didn't get in the club. And the name of the girls group this club was called the Mezamise, French for my friends, the Mezamise. And I was just talking to some friends, and one guy said, and then there were people there and said, yeah, I was, my best times in high school was in the Mezamise, because we went on this trip for this. And more than seeing my friends, more than seeing anything else, I remember saying, my mom started that. My mom started that. And not only she did it for her daughter, but it went on for about 20, 30 years to help other people. And my mom just didn't like the fact that anybody got left out. And let me go, we're going to end up being longer today because I'm going to tell you more stories. But let me tell you what I like about church. And I grew up in that Southern culture. I was president of my fraternity. I was president of this, and I was a leader. I did all of that. But let me tell you what I love about church. Those fraternities and clubs are inclusive. No, exclusive. Church is inclusive. And we say everybody's welcome here. I can never forget, you got to get bids to get in these groups. You got to be invited to be in it. And there are always people who don't make the cut. I'll still remember the day in Little League when you had 15 people who could make the team, and there's always 5 who didn't make the team. What I love about God's family is everybody's welcome. You come in. We want, everybody's wanted here. And so that's what I like about this. But Solomon did it all for himself. Friends, invest in others. I'm not telling you you have to give to this building campaign, but do something that will outlive you. Do something that will bless someone long after you're gone. Do something with that rather than just saving it to give it to somebody who's going to blow it after you're gone. My mom, we were blessed both ways, because I lost my mom 3 years ago. Lisa lost her mom three months ago. And my mom died without a penny to her name, okay? She had a little bit to cover expenses. But I'll tell you, the last 10 years of our lives, she got more joy giving while she was still alive. Giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And so it's just a different philosophy. And we all knew that, and we were all happy, and we got blessed. She gave my sister an RV about 15 years ago. And I remember Lisa saying to me, Rob, don't let her give us an RV, because I ain't getting in that thing. You can buy a lot of hotels with what that RV costs. Anyway, so that's that. So Solomon, number 1, he did it all. Number 2, he did it all for himself. Number 3, for a while he was pleased. For a while he was pleased. And that's the vanity of life. That's the trick or the bait, the hook and bait, or whatever it's called right there. I think the first couple times he got drunk, he thought it was good. The first couple times he went to see that comedian to laugh his night away, man, that's funny, you know. I think, first 2 times those lady dancers came and performed, he said, I like that. After a while, all the alcohol in the world wouldn't satisfy. All the dancers in the town, even 1,000 wives wouldn't satisfy him, Have you ever been to somewhere and you got great memories, and you go back the second time, it's just not the same? And I tell people, it says nothing like that first experience. If you're looking for experiences to fulfill you, it seems like you got to outdo yourself. You got to outdo it. And you got to learn. The secret is not to outdo it. The secret is learning to be content. Learning to be content with what you. So Solomon, he had it all. He did it all. Number 2, he did it all. Number 2, he did it all for himself. Number 3, for a while he was pleased. After a while, number 4, after a while, he became empty. And friends, that's the way it is when you live life under the sun. You try this, you try that. Some hit, some miss, some work, some don't. For a while, you're pleased, you're happy, but then you end up empty, and you got to do it all over again. My hope and my prayer is this, that you have a reason to get up every day. you have a reason to get up. If you don't, get a reason. Get a reason. And don't let it be about you. Have something in your life that you're doing for others, or even more, for God, because that's what fulfills. And we're all at this at Christmas time. We've all gotten there. As that, what are the 3 stages of Christmas? Stage 1 is when you believe in Santa Claus. Stage 2 is when you become Santa Claus. Stage 3 is when you look like Santa Claus. Yeah. But we've all gotten to the point where, nobody had. You remember the days when you had presents all under the tree? Now you just pass out gift cards. You just pass out gift cards. You do that. But I will say this: we're at the age now. If you do have company and you do that, we're probably past that age on that. That we get much more joy seeing others see their presence than the presence that we receive. And that's how God made us, to get that fulfillment in giving. Is it the prayer of St. Francis? It is in giving that we receive. Help me out. It is in imparting that we're parting. And just remember that as we go to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. Next week, our theme's thanks and giving. 2 words. Give thanks and give. Heavenly Father, help us to give thanks. Help us to give. I don't want to be a grabber. I don't want to be a getter. I want to be a giver. Help me to give the way you want me to give, so that I can have a purpose and meaning in life. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.